So this is our cybersecurity think tank panel. I would like to start off with the names introductions. So please answer the following. Who are you? And what does your typical day look like? Go for it.
All right, I'll go first. Hello, everyone. Welcome to B-Sides. My name is Del Amico. I am the Chief Information Security Officer for DataPoint. We're a cybersecurity firm. We do contracts for different things. I handle the CISO side of the house. So basically, anything that deals with GRC, that deals with advising, leadership, stuff like that. That's what I do. What was your second question, Chris?
What does your typical day look like?
Oh, my typical day? Well, I said GRC. So a lot of it is writing policies. A lot of it is just interpreting things for risk management teams, talking to legal, things like that. So somewhat boring, but pretty cool. I like it. I get paid good for it.
Hi, my name is Anthony Bell. I'm the Information Security Officer for the City of Albuquerque. Thanks for having me here, being part of this. Typical day, I think, only exists in our heads. I think when we start up, when we wake up in the morning, we have how we think the day is going to go, but it's really not under your control most of the time. So especially when you support a staff base of 6,000 people and several thousands of endpoints, you never know what the day is going to bring. So I think you start each day with a good intention of the things that you're going to want to do. This particular time of year is audit season for me, so I usually have between 1 and 4 different kinds of audits that I'm working through, and that usually goes through the month of November. So I'll be quite busy with that, plus responding to any kinds of security events and vendor reviews and purchasing analysis, risk reviews that the organization brings forth.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Eric Pizza, and I'm the Security Operations Director at SolarWinds. I've been with SolarWinds for about 9 years, and typical day at SolarWinds is almost kind of how you describe it, right? You try to set your day, but then you typically tend to react most of the time. I work with a global security team. One of the things that I also try to do is provide top cover to all the ops groups that I manage, and again, that takes up most of my time daily.
I'm Philip Wiley. I work for Verizon 3. I'm an offensive security expert, so I've been in cybersecurity for a little over 20 years, and the offensive security side for over 12. So my role at Verizon 3 is kind of twofold. 80% of my time is spent helping customers with their products. So my customers are consulting companies, helping them get the best use out of the product and kind of guiding them. And the other 20% is community and speaking, doing stuff like this, evangelizing the need for industry.
My name is Josh Vanhoose. I actually work for Eric at SolarWinds. I'm a staff security engineer and the only member of the security architecture and best practices. Typical day for me is assessments, diagrams, and review reports. It revolves around assessing the technology stack that we have and the deployments that we have, and then overlaying security architecture.
So I feel like we just need to discuss this for a second. There's an issue with information security where when someone gets attacked, everybody else likes to jump in and go, well, if they would have just done X, Y, and Z, it wouldn't have happened. So hindsight's 20/20. Let's keep that in mind. So without victim shaming, what can organizations do to prevent becoming the next news headline for breach?
All right. It's always easy to victim shame. It's one of those things where, as kids, we grow up and it's easy to blame. I had a family of 5, so, one brother, 3 sisters, and the women ruled the house, So it was always easy to point the fingers and blame someone because they didn't do something broke. my approach and the way that I view this whole situation as far as victim shaming, we've tried that. It just doesn't work, right? We try to scare people, we try to use fear, and if you do this, this will happen, and that will happen. And they see all these things that go on within the world, like today, and like some of the other organizations that have been through ransomware, and those things are just not working. So at my level, I have to learn how to talk to leadership so they understand exactly what's going on, and I have to talk to them in a language. And I always tell people, think of it like if you're at the C level, CFOs don't have a hard time talking about financials and things like that. Many years ago, I wanted to be a CFO, I wanted to be CPA and all that good stuff. They can talk to the rest of the C-suite like it's pretty common, and they understand. And that's because when you go to business school, you start to learn those terms. So I think there's going to have to be a change and more cybersecurity terms and understanding at that higher level has to be included in mastery programs and just all different types of business programs, so that when we talk to them, they can start to understand what that impact is going to be. So
Yeah, I have a comment. So one of the things I would guide people is you spend all this money on penetration testing, all this time and effort, but these items are not always remediated. Sometimes risk acceptances are filed, and these are leaving you open to being exploited, being breached. And there's time and place for risk acceptances, but use them where you need them. Don't just use it as an excuse not to remediate. Because one of the things that we discovered during these pen tests, these vulnerabilities that are exploitable are being leveraged for ransomware and other types of attacks. So making sure that you're doing timely remediation. There is times where you need to file risk acceptance to get more time. One example I'd like to share from one of the companies I work for, consulting. I was pen testing this company, and from the internet, for this web app pen test, I was able to get command line access to a SQL injection vulnerability, dump the password hash, crack the password hash. So only application was in scope, so I probably could have reused that password on other servers. But the company filed a risk acceptance because it was a development server. I was able to get that server from the internet. It doesn't matter if it's development or not. I could have gotten to other servers in production environment. So use the risk acceptances responsibly and make sure you're remediating your vulnerabilities.
I think another thing that comes into mind is if you're getting shut down at different points to get different avenues to get your point across, take a step back and maybe ask yourself, what can you do? What can you do to reduce the risk to the organization in the environment? Something that you have under your control. It's usually, there's some tools or some rules that you can put up to minimize the risk. To go that extra mile and not necessarily, if depending on another team to do the patching is not working, if the department has filed a risk acceptance form, and you still are the type of employee that cares about the organization and protecting them, ask yourself, what can you do on this, given all these other things and that might be dead end. So just approach it with a sense of curiosity, an open mind. You might find that there is something that you can do to lower the risk to the organization, and then you can sit back and say, well, I feel good that I've done everything that I could.
And I'll piggyback off of that. And at times, what you think you do is good may not be good enough. And when something catastrophic occurs to the business, victim shaming, typically happens. The challenge is, do you fall prey to that victim shaming, right? Does it, and in my point of view, it doesn't define you as a security professional. It's what you do afterwards, right? Do you fall prey to the victim shaming, or do you accept responsibility, hold yourself accountable, and then begin to take the steps to, be better? And then to wrap that all up, it's transparency. How can others learn from your experience, and how do you share that experience so that it doesn't happen to that, that next cybersecurity professional or the next organization. I think that's what's missing today.
So my kind of take on this is, while everything else said is 100% true, that's all kind of hinging off your analyst's understanding of the business. Often you see people come in, especially in earlier roles, have no understanding of how your business works, how your business processes work, workflows within key infrastructure, key departments. That, I have found for me personally, has been the best way for me to secure a workflow is to understand that workflow. When I first got hired by Eric, I kind of pulled him aside and I told him and our CISO, I can tell you, I came from Mexican food restaurants. Listen, I could run a Mexican food restaurant. I can't tell you anything about software. I need y'all to teach me software as a business so I can secure it. And I think that's, if I could tell any junior or even kind of mid-career security engineer or analyst, get to know your business. Get to know what you do. It will make everything much easier.
I want to touch on that because that's an excellent point. You know the business and know the business even before you go to the interview. Do some research, understand what they do. If you can talk to somebody there, understand the workflow. I think one of the biggest things is not knowing the business, and like you said, you run into problems. Where are the pain points? Where are the areas that somebody can come in and attack, and that would be detrimental to the organization? But then there's the other challenge too, because think about it. A lot of times when an analyst gets hired, how long do you stay at an organization, right? You're only there for maybe a year or two, whatever the case, especially if you're starting out. You're there for a couple of years and then you move on. So then you start thinking, well, why do I need to learn that business? And I think it goes to kind of Christina's point earlier, right? You take those skills, you learn, hey, I used to work at a manufacturer. Now I'm working for dealerships, right? Or whatever the case. You can take those different things and skills with you, but that's a great point.
Anthony, I have a question for you. 10 years ago, the city of Albuquerque, specifically APD, was targeted by Anonymous. What are the unique cybersecurity challenges faced by public safety departments, and how do you address them?
There's a lot to unpack there. All right. So definitely we would be considered a high value target, for organizations and attacks like that. I was not at the city at that time. I think I was a relatively new Albuquerque resident, or at least just visiting the area at the time. So I think on the surface, the obvious challenge to protecting yourself on that is how do you maintain operational continuity? With a lot of the attacks that you hear right now, 911 systems and public safety are always mentioned in it. Some cities have been fortunate enough that the attacks have affected other areas of the city, and they always try to point out public safety was not affected or 911 was not affected. Since then, I think we've been pretty successful in keeping 911 up and running. To my knowledge, when I was here at the city, I think one of the incidents was fiber cables get cut, and the routing of information didn't happen the way we thought it was on paper. So we would have an outage like that, and those have always been frustrating to me because if you cut the communication off and the users can't use the system, even though that the servers and everything, and the database servers and the messaging servers, everything is up, it's still down. So you still have to look for those other avenues that could affect system downtime. So that's always been a passion of mine to monitor the complete application stack, not just servers. Is the server up? Well, that doesn't really mean anything. So also kind of considering data sensitivity challenges, and the other thing that comes up is with city support is the support of legacy systems. So public safety typically has a lot of legacy systems that they are supporting for one reason or another. Some are outdated government systems that the city must use that aren't under complete control of the city, or the code isn't owned by the city, but we must host it and operate it. So the other type of where we see legacy systems come in is where the city buys a new system for X, Y, Z, and there isn't a proper data conversion of all the historical data that the city is mandated to maintain. So that creates other kinds of challenges. So you often find the support of legacy systems presenting different challenges. And I come back to my other my other statement is to ask yourself, what can security do to protect those systems and reduce the risk to the city? And all this goes without saying, is we often find ourselves with limited budgets and limited resources. Staffing's always been a challenge in all aspects of IT, especially at the government level. I know many organizations struggle with the same thing. Also, the other challenge that we have is the collaboration with other public safety departments as well. So right now, we're real fortunate to have good relationships with New Mexico Department of Public Safety and MDPS, and also with our local public safety departments such as Burnco, and we're reaching out to City of Rio Rancho as well, and trying to work together on different issues that we're also encountering. So it's really good to be part of that public safety community. Prior to this role, I was the IT manager for the Albuquerque Police Department for several years. So that was my entryway into this position, and that's where I started working with Delmore when he was in this role prior. So that maintaining that collaboration and that idea that you're not alone in any kind of situation, so you can really leverage those partnerships to your advantage. It does take some effort and some time to establish those relationships and cultivate them, but I think in the end, it's a win-win for all the organizations involved.
Can I highlight something there that I thought was really important? When you were talking about driving the reduction of risk, I feel like often a lot of engineers and security professionals get really locked in on a specific result, right? Well, I'm going to ensure I have zero assets public facing. I'm going to ensure that my path remediation is at 99%. Something concrete, solid. And I think it's really important to highlight what you said, where it's really not about that. We need to stop getting locked in on such specific results and just focus on that reduction of risk. At the end of the day, if I'm limited through a technology stack or through a process or legal issues, who cares? What can I do to improve the state of my organization and reduce that risk? It doesn't need to be a specific outcome. It's just that risk reduction.
So we've got a pretty diverse group here today with varying sizes for your organization. So what strategies do you employ at your organizations to educate and protect employees from phishing and social engineering attacks?
I'll take this one. So we have a internal red team at Solomons, and we run active phishing campaigns against our users. But where we kind of transition away from the traditional phishing campaign for training is we don't slap users on the wrist for clicking on that phishing moment. We partner with the organization, like maybe we see a trend in maybe the finance organization. And so we make the training relevant, right, and understandable. We don't speak in general security terms, we make it relevant to them. The phishing campaigns also are targeted, and so it's not a spray and pray type of phishing campaign. What we'll do is we'll target specific groups within the organization and craft the phishing campaigns, again, so that it's relevant to the day-to-day work that they do.
Just to kind of build off of that, the city does quarterly phishing tests of all the employees as well. One of the things that I think I try to implemented this year was try to make it a little bit rewarding for the employees who actually do the right thing and report one of the phishing messages that they receive to the security team as phishing, and who obviously didn't take the bait. Is we collect all those people who submitted those campaign emails to us, and we do a drawing once a quarter. We draw about a dozen names, and I send them a personal signed letter and a little stuffed fish that they get. So thanking them for their vigilance, and try to make it a little bit fun, that it's not necessarily, a hammer always coming down on you because you failed. But, let's recognize the people that also do the right thing and encourage them to encourage others as well.
I've got to set my boss up for this. Tell them about what we do.
Yes, so my prior background is in the U.S. Army. One of the things we did was we should challenge points. And so at SolarWinds, we've implemented a security campaign, challenge point to recognize individuals within the organization that are an extension of the security team. And so we issue out serialized challenge points. And then we recognize those employees for the good work that they do, and again, spreading awareness. Right? And so that gets
And who designed those ones?
I did.
That's awesome.
I think I'd rather have a coin than a fish.
Hey, I said limited budget.
Oh, okay. What are some ways that the information security community can collaborate to help prevent breaches and assist when they occur?
This is a pet peeve of mine, so I'm going to hop in first. Our enemy does not care about money, and they do not care about acknowledgement. They are going to share all of the exploits with each other constantly. We, in the United States especially, we keep everything very close to this. We keep everything very secret. We don't want other people to know, what if they're not doing as well as so-and-so. That's got to change. To keep up with an adversary that has the most unilateral sharing platform, which is the Tor, the dark web, and various other out-of-band, highly anonymized networks like Valet just came out last year from Hilton Cow. Until we get on that level, we're always going to be wrong.
I think one of the things that, again, is hard for me to stand behind is how do you prevent something? I think it's how to react to it. It's going to happen, right? You can do as much as you can, but it's going to happen at some point. And how do you respond and how do you react to that? And how do we become more collaborative as an industry and as a community? I think conferences like this, is one of those ways. And I think we need to be able to support the communities that do this kind of, or set up these kinds of sessions to do that. But I don't think it's going to prevent security breaches from happening.
Yeah, it's really tough. And I agree with both of my panelists here. It's one of those things where, how do we talk to each other? Some of the people in this room might be the first time I've ever met some of you guys, But, where do we collaborate? Where do we find that platform that we can talk? We have, Chili Set, right? Which is growing. Which I love it because people are getting on there, people are talking, and if you're shy, being on a platform where you can just, ask a question and not get vilified for it. I think a lot of the platforms now, just regular social media, you get vilified if you ask certain questions. I mean, even in, I don't show my age, but I mean, even going back to, BBSs and things like that back in the day, there's always going to be trolls, right? So we gotta, get beyond that. We've gotta create platforms and make sure that, for lack of a better term, a safe space that people can talk and really start to collaborate. Because like you said, our adversaries are doing that.
And I'll just say, I've been trolled at RSA, but I've never been trolled at DEF CON. It's a different mindset, it's a
Yeah,
different
you're
work.
right, you're right.
Yeah, one of the things I think we can do to help is, we think about going to all these different information security groups, but I think one of the things we can do to help is you get some of these smaller businesses that are really, don't have the security staff, they're really totally outside of the realm and understanding of cybersecurity. I think really as professionals, we need to get plugged into some of those groups, some of those meetups and, Chamber of Commerce and different business meetings, and kind of get involved with those organizations and kind of share what we're seeing and try to give them some guidance.
Great point. That's a great.
So we always hear about how every company out there, security team is understaffed, not enough budget. So how can organizations continue improving their security posture while working within these limitations?
Yeah, that's the mantra. That's what we deal with. And for me, of course, I'm big on GRC. I think it starts there. To start with your policies, to start with the fabric of your organization, the DNA of your organization, the culture of your organization, and promote a culture of security within your organization, leveraging what we talked about up here, leveraging the users within your organization, giving them recognition for whenever they see something. I think that's how you start to do it. That costs nothing, right? Working your policies, getting your policies to the point to where people can understand what those policies mean, and not some crazy legalese, right? When you sign that, when you get hired on, and you sign that document, that AUP, you got to understand it. When you read it, you got to understand what is expected of you, and right away that culture of security should be in the fabric of your organization, no matter what size you are. I think that's the most important thing.
You hit the nail on the head with the culture.
I think being creative is one of the transferable skills. If you have one of those, if you have being creative as a transferable skill, it works great in security. Again, with limited budgets, limited resources, establishing a culture of security, and then identifying security champions within your organization, because the security team can be everywhere. You can't see everything, but others around your organization can. And if you can build that trust within your organization that you're not the hammer, but you're a partner, then the likelihood of somebody reporting something to you is higher. And again, that costs nothing but time, your time, right? And so if you invest that time, and again, we're on that journey, but it's paying dividends for us as well, right? So,
I'm not gonna say no. Say not like that.
not like that.
You have a much better response when you use that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but the term GRC has been mentioned multiple times, but I don't think anyone's actually defined what those letters mean. And I just wanted to make sure for the people watching and everything that it's clear, because it's, I don't think it's intuitive that everyone knows.
Yeah, GRC is governance, risk, and compliance. So it's basically everything within your organization, how you're going to run your cybersecurity or information security program, risk management, how are you going to address the risk management within your organization, in compliance, how are you going to comply to the policies that you put forth within your organization, and how are you going to comply with the regulatory and legal compliances that are out there, HIPAA, those are some of the things that come to mind, PCI DSS, things like that. So
I'll just add a couple things. One on your point about transferable skills. So I would say another good skill to have is that sense of curiosity. So looking back at my own non-traditional background, if you will, I would say coming up through the ranks, I started off out of school as an accountant. So I know one other panelist that shares that as well. But I would say, all the years as an Oracle DBA, that sense of curiosity and how to dig into something that you see as a performance issue on an Oracle database system how to find the root cause of something, just being curious, say, I saw this when I was looking for something else, but that might lead to something else, it might not, but it's that curiosity to actually go and look and investigate something that you see is that caught your eye.
Yeah, kind of building off of what you said, I think it would be a good practice to take different org groups within IT and give them some security training, give them some secure coding training for the developers, and that way you kind of got more eyes and ears into those environments that are going to see it firsthand before maybe you're seeing malicious traffic or seeing some CVE that affects those areas.
Yeah, and that's much more reachable than it is going to be increasing your staff. So work with the staff that's already in your IT organization, kind of deputize them, if you will, into security practices, and you can really greatly expand your reach in the organization, and everybody benefits from that.
So how can organizations best measure the effectiveness of their cybersecurity governance?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, short of everything that we typically do, and especially everyone out here, we look at metrics, right? We look at all these different things, and yes, metrics are great. There are organizations like my organization that will come in, do assessments, and, give you a maturity rating and things like that, and that's great. But we talked about, organizations might not having, enough, budget in order to do that. And that's where it becomes tough, right? Because, yes, you can do self-assessments, but, again, I look at myself. If I'm I'm a patient, and would I do a self-assessment on my medical self, right? No, I wouldn't do that. So you might want to leave that to professionals, but you would know how your governance is working because basically you have policies that are in place. And if those policies are constantly being breached, constantly being exploited by your user base, then you know that you're not at the right level and that something needs to happen and something needs to change,
So we're right in the middle of a big series of assessments that I'm doing, and you're talking about like a lot of people have a budget for that, right? And I've often seen that the assessment itself you can do, it's going to be uncomfortable. I'm married, I have Eric is, I'm sure many of you are. When you have a partner, you're being real with one another. And my wife definitely lets me know when I'm doing something she does not like or that is maybe outside the norm. You've got to take that same mindset going into those assessments. I've ruffled feathers with friends while doing assessments. The members of the IT team that I'm close with, members of the biz apps team I'm close with. Just the other day, me and Eric were talking about how I kind of had to shut a friend down during an assessment. It's hard. But it's one of those things that you really have to look at for that partnership lens.
And that's why I think you need to outsource it, or have somebody else come in and do that type of assessment. And I really just feel, to any of the business owners, if we have business owners in here, I think at a certain point in time, as a business, you have to start thinking, this is the cost of doing business. Like every product, every widget that you put out there, no one doubts that, hey, all the financial assessments that we have to do, all the audits that we have to go through from the financial side, if you're a production organization and you've got to take and get your product, quality assessed or whatever the case, no one bats an eye at that. And those organizations can raise their prices on how much they charge for, checking out your widget and making sure that it meets the quality standard, right? Well, why isn't that? That should be the same for cybersecurity. I don't understand, and I think what's happening is we're seeing the threat actors, and like today's, random outages that just happen. Those things are pushing organizations to start thinking, hey, this is going to have to be a part of our business, and I think that's where we're headed.
And when you have those governance discussions with teams who are impacted by policy or regulation or something, Where you tend to see where it's working is if they have this, you're not coming after the mentality. It's like, okay, how do I make it better then? Right? But that goes back to what we talked about earlier about the culture of security. Right? And I think that's the key point is continue to partner with other groups within your company, within your organization, help them understand that yes, there's governance and regulations and guidelines and guardrails that they have to follow, but if they understand the why behind it, it makes it a lot easier to have the conversation to get it right. Right? And that's where I believe you can see whether or not the governance program is working.
So in case anybody's playing buzzword bingo, we have to talk about AI. Future predictions. How will AI impact cybersecurity?
Yes.
That's it. Thank you, folks. No, it's so true. AI will impact on both sides. We're already seeing it on the threat actor side. It's easier for them to code. It's easier for them, from other countries. Back in the day, and again, I'm showing my age. Back in the day, you would get a phishing email, and you read it. You're like, what in the world? Oh, that's fake. Now, it's pretty clean because AI has gone through and written it for them, and it looks really, really good. It reads really well, and it can get you to do things, or your user base to do things that they never would have done before. On our side, I think, from the defensive side, we're seeing a lot of products starting to incorporate that into their products and into their services, and I think it's going to help us. But again, we're always searching for the silver bullet. We always think that there's something out there that we're going to buy that one product, and I think business owners think this too. We're going to buy that one product, we're going to get that one service, and we're going to be protected forever. That's not it. There's multiple layers that you have to put in place in order to protect yourself. So AI, yes, will affect us.
So yeah, from like the offensive security side, it's helping us scale, because as you mentioned earlier, just kind of the shortage of talent. Some of these AI products that are coming out are able to take someone that could be without any kind of pen testing background, just the organization I work for, Horizon 3, we have an autonomous pen testing product, and you really don't have to know anything about pen testing to go run it. So I see more options like that to be able to scale with the people we have, and it's just a natural progression to tooling within cybersecurity. Because once upon a time we didn't have vulnerability scanners, all that had to be done manually. But vulnerability scanners helped us, scale what we're doing, as well as like from the pen testing side, some of the exploitation tools like Metasploit makes it easier for lesser experience. So I see that helping. And I learned of a tool earlier this year that started called Uno AI. They've got like a co-pilot for defenders that you can go in and ask guidance, and it's specialized towards defenders. And so I think things like that are going to take the newer folks, scale them up quicker, and be able to do more with less. But I think this would be a good thing. A lot of times you hear about what you see on the defensive side, but I'm really curious to see what it does with some of the defensive tools, what were the capabilities that we're able to come up with that.
One of the things that I'm keeping my ear to the ground on with the discussion on AI is again around privacy, who holds the data, and you hear a lot of discussion around regulations and how do we establish guardrails. The challenge is the adversaries don't have that. They don't care. They are not bound by regulation. And so again, as we have these discussions, where's that balance? Right? And we have to come up with some way to make sure that we are still as close as we can to that. Otherwise, we're going to be output.
That was very much what I was going to throw in there. It's no different than any other hype cycle with any other piece of technology. The importance is to adopt it along with it, right? I just brought up the intelligence sharing. We never caught up to the adversary with how we share our intelligence. We have to make sure we keep up with how our adversaries are using AI, or we're going to end up with the exact same thing.
So we often hear about cybersecurity gatekeepers, and there's a lot of students today who are trying to transition to cybersecurity roles, and it's interesting. You hear about how there's this cybersecurity talent shortage, but then people who are trying to get into cybersecurity are having difficulty doing so. So what advice would you give someone seeking their first cybersecurity role?
I don't know if any of y'all noticed, but cybersecurity people are kind of cocky. So don't listen to them. If someone tells you you can't, man, that's my biggest fuel. Ask him. I don't know how many times I've probably done something and said, don't do that. I do it anyway. Don't listen to the people that tell you you can't get into the field. Find a way. Find the skills that you have that contribute to it. I also came from I don't have a degree, waited tables, built irrigation pumps. I learned the value of hard work, and that's really been incredibly beneficial to me in my career. And I've had plenty of people tell me, oh, you don't have experience, you don't have the technical chops, you don't have this. Well, I'm going to learn it. And that's the end of it. So, like, don't let them get you down. Don't be scared to be wrong.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'll give you a little bit of my background, and this kind of goes to the previous presentation. I grew up really poor in New York. We didn't have much. It's tough sometimes with food and things like that. My mom picked us all up and moved us out here so I wouldn't get into any trouble. So came out here. My brother, really smart, got a scholarship to Albuquerque Academy, which is one of the top schools here in New Mexico. One of the first computers we ever got was one that he won because he won the supercomputer challenge. And it was the most expensive thing we ever had in our house. And so we looked at this thing and, turned it on, and he was showing us some stuff. And yeah, that's how we got introduced to tech and computers and things like that. So, for me, I have to give back. The opportunity there, I mentor whenever I can. The organizations, and Kristen knows this, and, Anthony knows this, the organizations that people either see me in, and if they come up and talk to me and say, hey, I'd like to get into it, then I want to take them under my wing, and I want to tell you how to get through it. Because literally, and it sounds cliche, but if I can do it, anybody can do it. And I mean that. And the gatekeeping with the technical terms and us speaking Klingon and things like that, we need to stop that. We need to stop. It's just like any other job. It's just like anything else. If you're curious, if you have drive and you have motivation, you can be very successful in this field.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. So I've taught at Dallas College for almost 4 years, do a lot of mentoring, run a DEF CON group, and helped a lot of people get into the industry. But as far as kind of the difference between some of the gatekeepers, some people are legitimately trying to be helpful, and they think you have to follow that path to be a pen tester, for instance, because I had some of my students before, because I was assistant administrator before I became a pen tester, and I had students, one of my students came in one semester, first or second week, said, yeah, I would be at your level, but can I do it quicker? And I told them, yes, the more time and effort you spend into it, you can get there sooner. And I've had people ask me, do I have to be a sysadmin? No, you don't have to. You just need those certain skills. You don't necessarily have to be in those roles, but don't, as mentioned earlier, don't let anyone tell you no. Just be persistent, be motivated, and do what you want to do. You can do it. It's not that difficult, because in my background, I was a former pro wrestler. Never thought I'd use my mind for a living. Didn't take high school serious enough that my grade point average in my college entrance exams test scores were too low to get in unless I had 8 letters of recommendation from my teachers. So I pursued a pro wrestling career, but then later on got into a career in IT and then cybersecurity and pen testing. So don't let anyone tell you no. And along with the gatekeeping thing, find allies. If someone's only giving you negative and they're not trying to help move on and find someone else, find a mentor. And another tip on mentors, you don't have to have just one. Find several people that are available to have talks, because not everyone has the time to take a monthly or weekly call with you, but they may be able to speak to you once a month or ever so often. And typically the way I like to do it, because I don't like to turn down any mentees, but what I'll do is I'll have an initial call, get their background, give them some steps on what they need to do next, let them go off and do it, and they can ask me questions. If just answering a few questions through a text message or LinkedIn message or email is not enough, then we have another call again. But yeah, just reach out to people. A lot of people are willing to help you. So find allies. If people are gatekeeping, just avoid them. They're not going to do anything.
I was going to just add, the question is always, how do I get my foot into the cybersecurity door? I think security leaders in this room also have some responsibility to help find those people who are interested, and so changing the narrative just a little bit, right? It's incumbent upon security leaders to be able to identify those who are very interested and not be those gatekeepers.
I'm going to also say two things. When you mentor someone, encourage them to mentor and have that grow. And when they mentor someone, encourage that person to mentor. So that's one thing. And the other thing, lab every day.
So I'll just add one thing. Everything's been really great so far. Everybody had to add. Practice the proximity principle. So get yourself where cybersecurity is happening. I don't think the majority of the people in the industry don't have a straight line between I started school and I went right to cybersecurity. We all have varied backgrounds and various paths. Leave yourself open to that and grow wherever you're at. Get some skills with whatever your first job is. Prior to coming to the city, I was an IT officer at the University of New Mexico, and I employed IT student employees. That is a wonderful opportunity available, and you cannot ask for a better job while you're going to school where your employer respects what your school commitments are, and you're already on campus. I tell you that I've had some excellent mentoring capabilities with some of my past student employees. Several of them went on to cybersecurity careers, but it wasn't always a direct path. Maybe they went through sysadmin, they learned about securing servers that way. They all brought skills with them along the way that aided to their overall success. So don't put such a burden on yourself that it needs to be a direct path, and if somehow you're over here, you want to be over here, you're still able to grow over here. And trust me, you'll be when you finally get to where you want, you'll have that perspective to look back and see, connect the dots with every single position that you've had, and you'll see how that made you the person that you are and prepared you for success.
All right. Well, thank you, panelists. We are out of time, but I appreciate, and I think this